How you doing, Kai?
I am all right. How you doing, man?
Good. Welcome everybody to the Dad's Doomsday Guide live stream. We're going to try to start doing these a little more often and do them at hours that people can actually see them, because some of the ones we've done before have been really late on a Friday night and people are out doing things with their families or their friends. So here we are. Today we're joined by musician filmmaker Kai Blackwood. Welcome, Kai. And we're going to be talking about UFOs and whatever else comes up in our conversation. So
as always.
yeah. So I don't know if you were able to check out the UFO hearing or any clips from it.
I did see some of it. I saw like little bits and pieces. I didn't watch like the whole thing, but yeah, yep.
I was really disappointed by it, and I really didn't go into it thinking like, oh, they're going to tell us anything. But it was just I've not those two DOD officials that they had on. I've never seen two clueless people who are like they're literally asking them questions about, hey, what do you think about the Maelstrom like nuclear shutdown from those weird UFOs? You're like, oh, I have no idea about that. And they're like, well, okay, well, how about any programs between Project Blue Book and today? And they're like, oh, we don't have any record of that. And it's like, why are you even here? I was so frustrated by it.
I was literally not shocked at all. It happens every time when it's supposed to be a big reveal of some kind. It's nothing. It's
yeah.
anything.
Did you see there's a Representative Gallagher? I didn't know who he was before this, but he has some really good snippets on Twitter. And he was the one who was doing really good questions. I thought a lot of the other ones were just a joke, the congressman.
Right. I actually didn't see that one, but like,
I'll have to send it to you.
What were his questions?
He really pointed to the fact, and he got very specific about what was done between this date and this date. What about the Maelstrom Air Force Base shutdown of the nukes? And then he asked about the Admiral Wilson memo. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's that whole, yeah. So he asked about that. And then I think he put that into the record there for Congress. But those guys had no idea. And some of the other stuff I remember watching. Did you see the UFO clip that they gave?
Which one did they show? Was it the Tic Tac one?
No, it was like this cell phone from a cockpit of a jet, and this little tiny ball just went zip right by. And then this was hysterical. They were trying to pause it to show, like, because somebody asked, like, hey, I want to like see this like frozen. Can I get a frozen frame of that? And they're like literally trying to pause it, and they couldn't do it. They're like, oh, the laptop's really difficult to do this.
Okay, see something like that. Oh. I would think that if they were going to do some like a hearing like this, that they would be absolutely prepared. Okay, so what you just said is exactly what I would expect.
Yeah,
it's not what I want. I would love to have had them already. Wouldn't they have thought of that? The very first thing I would do if I caught something, which I have before, freeze it, freeze frame the thing when you can, and see if you can get a better look at it. I would have had those already up and ready to go, not trying to do it right there on the spot.
And that's what makes me think it's bullshit.
It is. They don't want to tell us. They're not ever going to tell us what's going on. That's a crying shame. Oh my God.
It is really depressing. So I think a lot of people, Bear Lamb, somebody said, hello from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Yeah. Scene of several UFOs. And then Tim popped in and said he put just a face.
Tim.
Where are you, Tim? Excuse my voice, everybody. I think I'm coming down with something, so I apologize for the hoarseness. But that's why I see a lot of people on the UFO Twitter, and I've talked to Tim about this at length. I've had to back off it a little bit and not consume so much stuff, because I think it's just a lot of it. And I'm not going to say like people are lining their pockets with, you know what I mean? But there's an industry for everything. There's like the UFO Twitter, there's crypto Twitter, there's a bunch of different things going on, and people can make money off of it if they're smart enough. And I don't blame you for doing that, but I feel like a lot of it is that.
And less about it really is. Stephen Greer, sorry, that guy's got it. No,
who's he again? Is he like that guy who has like contacting him mentally and stuff? Or
yes,
what was that about?
He started doing that. It started with something else, and then he's always on about the free energy and all the things that he knows, because he supposedly briefed Clinton and I think he said Obama too, like on UFOs. But he's full of them, and this whole entire field is full of those kinds of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unless you've seen, like, all right, I meant to ask you this the last time we were doing it. I don't think I did. How long have you been interested in the whole UFO thing? Like, really started looking into it?
So I loved it. I mean, we're both movie people, so it's like I loved it since Spielberg, right, and all the different extraterrestrial movies. But I never took it serious, like, hey, this is an actual thing until I think the Tic Tac New York Times article came out. Then I was like, because I never saw anything personally, so for me that was like, oh, wait a minute, serious people are looking into this, and I didn't even really know about like. I mean, you hear about Roswell and Area 51, but for me, it was always like, oh, it's just black projects that they're hiding there. And
Right.
so none of it, thought actually a UFO was there or anything. So once that came out, I was like, oh shit, this is serious. But for you, I know it's probably a little different, right? Because you
A
actually
lot longer,
experienced it.
a lot longer. And yeah, because I experienced it, like from the abduction moment, and
Can you
from
tell me if you could, I guess, tell me that story because we still haven't aired. We had another chat with Kai a while ago, but just from technical issues, we haven't aired the episode yet. But can you basically kind of tell everybody what happened there and what made you believe that this is a UFO?
Sure, sure. Okay, so when I was 25 years old, I'm not going to say how old I am now, but I'll say it was a long time ago. um, I had woken up in the middle of the night, completely unable to move, paralyzed, and because of my pillow was kind of big and fluffy, so I could only move my eyes, and I was scared. I woke up terrified, and that was an awful feeling, and I couldn't move. I could see over my shoulder, and what I saw in my room was a figure that seemed to be made out of light. Is the only way I can explain it. It seemed like it was made out of light, and it had like a head and a neck and shoulders, and the fear that went coursing through my body, it was like electricity. It was the worst fear I've ever had. It was why we talked about it. It was primal fear, where I started
Yeah.
sweating right away. And I don't mean like just a little bit. My body immediately broke out into a sweat, and the smelly kind, like the fear sweat, that kind where you just stink like that awful that. And I was unable to move, and I was so afraid. And I was 25 at the time, grown man. I passed out, and
Damn.
then next thing I knew, I woke up again, and I was in the same position, and everything was the same. Only I could move because I was wiggling my toes. But I was so
Hmm.
afraid, still, and so confused that I just lay there like looking out the window without moving at all. I was too afraid to move until the sun came up. I would just watch the sun come up.
Damn.
And it took years before I knew what that was. I had no idea what it was. I thought ghost, but I don't really believe in ghosts. I didn't know. I had no idea
Mm.
until I stumbled across something on the internet, because this is right when the internet was becoming a thing. But I didn't have access to it at the time. So a couple of
Jeez,
years
don't
later,
date yourself. Don't date yourself.
it's true. This was 1995. So there you
Okay.
go. And I stumbled across something about UFOs and abduction, and people were explaining the exact same thing that happened to me. And that's when I was like, oh my God. So then I went, I really started looking into it. And then in my mind, I could go back many other times as a child and like growing up where these incredibly bizarre things happened. And
Hmm.
that's when I was absolutely sure what it was.
So when you talk about that one experience in your 20s where you couldn't move and you saw the thing in your room,
Mhm.
have you had that happen since?
I have not had that happen since. I do remember one particular time when I was younger of almost exactly the same thing, only I had gotten up and for some reason walked out of my room in the middle of the night and then walked back into my room. And when I walked into my room, there was what I would describe as like a light being,
Oh,
sort of, and that's all I remember. Same color, bluish light too. And I don't know if we talked about this the last time, but my daughter, who is 8.5 years old, lives with me, has had experiences, and she drew them and everything. And she didn't know anything that had happened to me. It started a
really?
couple of years ago. Yeah. Yep. And I have her drawings, which I'd be happy to show you, because they're one particular aspect of it is incredibly um, validating,
It's
because
not. Is it a person? Is it like a shape like the being that you saw?
well, it's not what she saw actually didn't look anything like what I saw. And I thought that was
Okay.
odd. So we have I live in a 1 bedroom apartment here in Hollywood, and but it's big, right? So she has
Mhm.
like a giant loft bed above my bed, and it's all like her own room. And she told me one day, a couple of years ago, that actually I'll tell you what she said before that, but she told me that a she called it an alien. I don't know why she called it an alien, but she said he was standing in her at the end of her bed,
Oh
and that
man.
she was afraid. So she just put her covers over her head and didn't do anything else because she didn't know what to do. She
Ugh.
described him very, very well. And At first, when she first told it to me, she did say it was a dream. And then she came back to me a couple of days later and she's like, remember that alien? It was real. She didn't want me to think that she was, when she was telling me this. She was like 6, she's so and then that happened again. Probably a few months later. She told me he came back, same thing, standing in there in her bed. And she said this time she said that he talked to her, but not with his mouth. And she said she could
Oh man.
understand him, but he wasn't speaking English. That's what she said. He wasn't
Oh,
speaking.
weird.
Yeah. So I had her draw him for me. And if you want to give me 2 seconds, it's literally right here. I can grab it.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Because I know that you know about this and other people that are watching might know about this. When there's a specific detail that she drew that there's no way she would have known that all people say that they have. And it's pretty shocking.
All right. Bear Lamb in 2006. I see around a ball.
Top.
Oh, he's coming back. I'll read your comments.
Alien drawings. So, and then on her first, by the way, these were drawn months apart. Like the first incident, I had her draw it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, actually, I think it was a year apart. And then I had her again because she kept talking about it. And I asked her to draw him again. So this is 2 separate times over a year. So this is the first drawing.
Oh, wow.
Just that. But she was specific about the rainbow. She said he had like rainbow around his eyes. And she said he was grayish. That's, kid making it gray. But so there we go. There's that. So
I was trying to get a full screen, but I just see my face. Let me go back to the half.
Don't want time to see my face. All right, so I'm gonna.
That's crazy.
This is the one though. Oh, here we go. So a year later, she's talking about it more, and I said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you draw it again?" I just without going back. I didn't show her the one she drew before. I had that one put away. So she draws it again.
Oh wow!
Only this time, am I in reverse on this?
It might be. Yeah, it might be, but it's still the faces.
But I want you to take, and this is what I noticed, and this is why I had her draw it again. Take a good look at this, at the hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I said, hey, because I didn't know if it was just her interpretation of fingers, right? So I said, can you draw a close-up of the hand again? So she did. Take note again. Only
4 fingers?
4 digits, but look at the end of them with the weird suction cup.
Yeah.
This is literally how they're described.
Yeah.
Almost everybody that sees them says that exact same thing about their hands.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have known that. I never even I never let her watch anything that wasn't like some sort of animated movie up until probably last year. So she doesn't know anything about scary stuff. I never showed her anything like that. So for her to come up with that on her own, means it happened.
It's a little creepy because I've had a couple instances with my kids and that nothing ever came of it, like drawings or anything. But one of them was she was in her bed and she's like, "Oh, I'm scared." I'm like, "There's like something in the room," and I was like, "What's in the room?" And the conversation I was like thinking I was about to have, I was just like, "Oh man, this is gonna be like a movie." And she's gonna say some weird things, like watching her from the end of the bed. Luckily, she pivoted and like I think it was just a dream. But man, it was like that kind of stuff would spook me a little bit. Does that spook you at all, or is that to you like? Do you still try to kind of dismiss it as possibly, oh, maybe she's dreaming? Or
no, I actually believe her 100%. There were more things that she was telling me about it over there. She still talks about it. No, I actually just believe her because I've had my own experiences that are so bizarre. And the thing I was going to tell you, I know I always jump all over the place. I'm trying to work on that.
No, it's good.
In the very beginning, before she ever told me that an alien was in her room, and as soon as she told me this particular thing, I was like, it's going to happen to her too. She told me when she was about 5 years old, she got up in the morning, she seemed like a little anxious. She said she had a dream that a house of lights came out of the sky and took both of us up into it and went up into, she said, space. That's what she said.
Oh.
So I mean, where did she come up with that stuff? I don't know, but the alien thing in her bed, there's no way. Especially she described them exactly the same each time. She was very specific about things that other people have said, like him talking to her but not using his mouth. It was almost, she didn't say he was talking to her head, but that's what she was trying to articulate at the time.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That what he said was not English, but she could understand. She said, I couldn't understand all of it, but some of it I could.
Okay. That's really interesting to me because that's a lot of the reports you see from, I forget what was it, the school in another country where all the kids saw the UFO and then they said that the being was communicating with them like telepathically.
I think that
And
was Zimbabwe.
yeah, yeah, I
I
think
think
you're
it
right.
was. There were two. There's one in Australia, and there's one in I think it was Zimbabwe in Africa that
And
happened.
that's,
Very
yeah,
similar incidents.
and that's wild. I mean, people have a tendency to want to dismiss kids. That one was interesting because of there's so many. And I
Yeah,
think the teacher even saw it. And then
the teacher saw it.
the teacher was visited by government officials and were saying, "Hey, you need to keep this quiet." And then he was like afraid to testify until I think I saw him on one of those recent documentaries.
Yeah, he was going to testify, and then he didn't. They
Yeah,
told him not to, and so he didn't because he got scared.
it's
So who
crazy.
knows what they said to make him afraid to,
Yeah.
and if
Well, see
someone
that
who claims to be a government official calls me up and says, if you testify about this, whatever, I'd be like, what? So he must, unless he said, I'm going to kill your whole family. You know what I mean?
I think they threatened, yeah, his career. Said like, "You're done. You're not going to have a career if you come out with this." And that's
Yes.
what gets to me. And that's what I'm. And I maybe you can like, I don't know, give your interpretation on it. But why the government insists on this visitation after people see things? This even with their own military,
Mhm.
they seem to be coming about it for all the people who don't believe it's a UFO, who just believe it's some kind of government program. They seem to be coming at it a really bizarre way, and they're
Sure.
just feeding a conspiracy. And I've said this before, it's like if you want military funding, you have Russia, you have China. It's not very hard to articulate some kind of world war coming down the pipe for
Mhm.
dominating space, in orbit and missiles and everything. It's really not hard to articulate that, but there's an insistence to have this weird narrative spun, like, we don't know what that UFO is, or we don't know what this is. And if it's not, just say it. Be like, hey, guys, this isn't UFOs. We can let it go now. These are government projects or these things that people are seeing. Don't worry about it. We'll give you the evidence, but there's nothing there. But they
Right.
don't. They keep this, and that's what makes me think there's something to it, is
Of
because
course there is.
why would you keep this ridiculous narrative going? Even if you're trying to hide something, it's stupid.
Well, it's also, I believe they call it the Streisand effect. I don't know why. I forgot. I did read why, but I can't remember now. But it's something to the effect of where you want something to go away, but for some reason, because of the way you address it, you make a bigger deal out of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what they do. They're making a
yeah,
huge deal out of it. So some guy says he says something, and a bunch of kids say they saw something. So they have to go to the guy and say, "Don't talk about it,"
yeah.
instead of just letting him go talk about it. Which, and most people just hearing that would be like, "What a kook," right?
Yeah.
That's what would happen. That would be the end
Exactly.
result. Instead, they make it something by threatening people. It's literally the wrong way to approach it entirely. They should just ignore it,
Yeah.
if, but they don't. So I don't know what. That's a very. It's
Yeah.
a stupid
So
approach.
what is that? What is that?
I don't
Because
know.
it's
Are they
I
trying to make it ridiculous, or are they trying to hide it and they're just really bad at it?
because there's like a movement on the UFO community and some people who just don't believe it's real, and they try to say it's drones. That's like the big talking point now, is it's foreign drones and they're swarming things, and it's like maybe in some instances that's true. It
Sure.
probably is. Tech's getting better. Why not have swarms of drones on ships and stuff? But you're going to tell me that they're spinning a narrative since like the 40s or 50s
Mhm.
about Project Blue Book and all this weird stuff, and just because of drones? Well, drones didn't even exist back then to this kind of level of technology, so you can't say that was drones, even though
Right.
the sightings are very similar. So, and then everybody wants to just ignore, not UFO people, but like the government wants to ignore everything from like Project Blue Book to like 2004. Well, let's just take it from the Tic Tac. We're only going to talk about that. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Why not talk about the other shit? Like, it
Things
gets me
have been
so angry.
reported since really, honestly, the beginning of recorded history. People
Yeah.
have claimed to see things in the sky. There's a pretty famous one of a cigar-shaped one in like from the 1800s.
Yeah.
And
That,
there weren't even
yeah.
airplanes then when that happened, so nothing could have been in the sky. You know,
Yeah, then people just say, "Well, they're stupid, and it was a meteor," and it's
of
like, "Come
course,
on, dude, come on!"
not
Like
the
you
way that
can't.
one was described. It was
Yeah,
in the 1800s, and it was described clearly as like
yeah.
it was shaped like a cigar. It had portals in it. The whole thing, just flying in the
If
sky.
if you had to take one case or one thing you've heard, and I would imagine you would say maybe your own experience, but what would you say to you defines your belief in it and makes you confident that there's something there? Is it the fact that the government plays these games, and you're like, well, if they're doing this, something's to it? Like you said, it's their own narrative spinning that gets it more and more media attention. Or is it your own experience? Or is it like a case like the Zimbabwe one? Is there something that sticks out to you as like, man, that's, how do you explain that away?
One would be the things that I've seen, not even counting the abduction thing that happened to me. I've seen plenty in broad daylight, real craft, not lights in the sky, craft. I've seen these since I was a kid. But also the okay, so before the internet, right? You didn't have access to like everything at your fingertips. How would I have the same story as literally thousands of other people over time, over long, if it didn't happen to me and didn't happen to them? Something absolutely is happening.
Yeah.
Is it outer space aliens? Maybe not. Maybe it's interdimensional. Who knows? I don't know. But I do
Mhm.
know that it's real. Whatever I've seen, I saw. And my daughter has also seen things. So it's like that goes along with they say that it's generational, like that kind of thing, where you actually they'll, same way we would tag. I think I've given this one before, but they go to the jungle like a scientist will, and they'll tag a lion, and then they'll follow that lion cub through its life, and then also follow its family to see, to study. That's what they do.
Mhm.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, but to your point, I just don't think we're ever going to really be told. And it's unfortunate because it's not like we have, unless you have a personal experience, I think that's most valuable in terms of, trying to, I mean, your mind can play tricks on you and stuff, but it's similar to like a near death experience or something. Once you have that experience, it's really hard for anybody to dissuade you that it didn't happen. And some people, it's life changing. Same thing with like, um, like what psychedelics, and people
Sure.
take those and have like a life changing experience. I feel like those are the kind of things that will really help people who have seen something to believe.
Well,
But
I
for
would
me, it's like I don't haven't seen anything. I don't think I will. And then to me, it's like, well, the government, some authority has to come out and say this is it, and I just don't think that's ever going to happen.
no, that's probably not going to happen. And who knows why? I mean, go with the whole free energy thing. Maybe that is part of it. But yeah,
It's depressing because I'm
it's one of
gonna.
those. It has to be that many people can't see the same things, even if they sort of look different or whatever. But basically, everyone has the same experience when it happens. There's no way that people are just making it up. The same with ghosts. Now, I can't throw go. I don't believe in ghosts.
Mhm.
I think it might be something, but we don't
Yeah.
really know what it is. But I will say this: I actually have thought about this often. What if whatever these things are that are coming here? What if they just show up one day? Maybe to them, our time is different, and they people talk about that all the time. Time is different over here than it might be over here. Maybe to them, it's only been a little while of them studying us, because people always say, "How long are they going to study us?" I don't know. Maybe it's not very long for them. So
Yeah.
maybe one day they're just going to show up, and with big ships floating over all our cities and be like, "All right, here we are, and this experiment failed.
Restart.
We're gonna flush this whole thing
Independence.
down the proverbial toilet in
Yeah.
5, 4, and that's it."
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't
I
say
w-
anything to us at all because they were not significant enough to give a shit.
that's the one depressing. I'm saying depressing a lot this morning. That's the one thought that's kind of, to me, if you want to talk about a belief in a God, a belief in a higher power, it gets a little. Ever since my dad died, and before that, you see kids suffering and different things, you start to doubt a little bit. Like I was born and raised Catholic. I still am a Catholic, but it starts to
Irish, how
eat.
could you not be?
I know. It starts to eat at your belief a little bit. Like, how can this book is telling me this stuff? It's like I'm really believing that, but yet all this suffering and pain is happening. So it's coming from an honest place. It's not just, oh, I'm just, down on religion or something. But
Sure,
then but you look
I
at
would do
that
that.
and you go, what if there's something? Because I do believe something spawned everything, right? The universe is everything else. I believe that just when atheists say, "Oh, it's an accident," "Oh, it just popped out," "This is just what it does," it contracts, expands, contracts. It's like that's not. That's to me, it's like you're shutting off the possibilities of what may be after that. And I feel like something caused it. Whether you want to say it's like this general consciousness, this universal thing that doesn't necessarily care about you, or it's using us to perceive the universe through. And that's my not a fear, but it's like I think it's a real possibility. Is like whatever made us, whether it's an alien civilization, whatever we look at as a god,
Mhm.
made this whole system and like has stepped away, or it doesn't have the power that we think it does, or it doesn't
Ah,
care.
that's one of the things I think right there.
Yeah,
We think of it as something, maybe it could literally be an experiment gone wrong that was just abandoned,
yeah, and we're
which
just
just
here.
sucks.
Yeah, I know when you think about it, because like my thing is like, how do you take something that's nothing, right? If you want to say the universe has no intelligence, has no higher mind or creator or whatever, um, and say that we evolved to be smart enough to question our own existence and look at things and say, "Oh, how stupid is all this?" That's such a weird concept because
Self-awareness is a weird thing.
yeah,
You're the actual like cognizance of your own existence. Like a dog doesn't walk around thinking about why he's alive. It
yeah,
just is. It just is. It's that weird reflection that we have, which is probably, well, I want to say that's proof of something, but maybe not. Maybe it's just a weird aberration in things existing and or whatever. I don't know though. I
yeah.
don't
I
know
mean,
about that.
it's totally possible that there is nothing, and we're just doing this dance by ourselves in the middle of the universe
But
in
what is
bubble.
nothing? That's
But
the whole part that kills me. You just said like, it's expanding, attracting, all that kind of stuff, right? I think we've talked about this before, but into what?
yeah,
If you
and
say the
well,
universe is expanding,
now there's
into what? We
yeah.
couldn't even possibly comprehend that, but I have to think about it.
Well, that's the thing is like they're saying now they think there's bubble universes. So now our universe is outside of other universes, and it's
I've
like,
actually read
well,
that.
that's fine, but and it's I think it's really cool. I love science and physics and hearing all these smart people talk and dumb it down so I can understand it. But it's like it comes to a point where you're like, you're not going to know that. You're never going to know that unless an alien civilization does come and goes, hey, here's a wormhole. You can jump out into this other universe. Unless something like that happens, you're never going to know as in observing. Because when we sent that satellite out and it zipped past Pluto, we were
Yep.
like stunned, like, oh shit, Pluto has volcanic ice, and they didn't realize all these things were happening they were surprised by a lot of stuff. So you're saying that we can extrapolate, things that are so far away and be, and, I know I'm not the science denier or anything with math and everything, but it gets to a point where it's like some of these theories are just like, it may as
But
well be a religion. Like, how are you ever
they
going to
are
prove any of this
theories.
stuff?
That's exactly what it is. They're theories. Like if you're talking about, if you're you know making conjecture about like what is this, and they try and describe, sure, some of it is based in science, but after a certain point of what you actually know, there's a whole lot they don't know. So it's just, they're just
Mm.
saying this is what it might be. Same like the Big Bang theory creating the whole universe. That's fine, I guess, except that so they say an atom exploded and created all of this, including the Infinity Stones from. But where was the atom? What was it in? What
Yeah,
is the
they
universe expanding into? What is the, that part kills me. Like it has to have a container of some kind, but if that's a container, what's that? And it goes bigger, bigger, bigger till it makes no sense. Like none of it
yeah.
makes any sense, and that proves you really can't make any sense of it. You can guess, but until when you're talking about an atom exploding and creating everything, yeah, to me that's fine. Except that you should probably go back to shouldn't, when you come up with a hypothesis or thing, shouldn't you start at the very beginning? But that's not actually the beginning. The beginning of it is, where did that atom come from? That's the question I want to know. I don't care if it exploded, I'll accept that. But where was it
Yeah.
come from?
What was before the Big Bang? And they go,
Yeah.
well, it's like it was our universe. Yeah, it's just like it's a never-ending cycle of trying to figure out
And
those
why are we
answers.
trying to figure it out? That's the worst. That's a curse of humanity, as far as I'm concerned. And any other intelligent intelligent race that lives anywhere, wherever they are in the galaxy or the universe, questioning it is infuriating. Being
Yeah.
aware that you're going to die is awful. You know what I mean? These
No,
things
I
are like,
agree.
are not helpful. So why did it happen? It seems like an aberration in evolution or whatever. Like that's something that happened accidentally, maybe whatever. But it's really bad. It's actually
Yeah.
makes us awful.
I don't want to get too I almost said depressing again. I don't get too depressing for what is it, Tuesday morning? But I sit up at night lately, and maybe it's me getting a little bit older, and you have a family and people you love, and you go like really, what is the point? Like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here?
Yep.
Um, and for me to die and for all it to be erased, and I have this brief snapshot. And the atheists would say, well, it makes you appreciate life more. You can say that to make be in the moment with your family, and you have to some extent, or you'll just recoil into nothing. And you won't want to live. You won't want to do anything. But I'm still honest with myself to know like it's still bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. And everything I think I love, every memory I think I have, even if you like change world events, like eventually that's going to dust and nothing, and
Right.
it won't be remembered. And so it's kind of like, well, I don't know what just a really bad outlook, I think, to be positive in life and stuff. And you can't have that thought in your head all the time, or you just won't be functional. But I do stay up at night a lot, and it bothers me. And I don't know. Maybe other people do that too, but it's just really,
I also do it. I've done it since I was a kid. The second I knew I was going to die, it's still, if I talk about it too much, it will keep me up at night in a way that not just up, like I have to get up and I start panicking inside. Like
yeah.
I start
No,
panicking.
I've gotten close. I've gotten close. Like especially after my dad died, and I watched that whole process, and I could live it. I could see myself that happening to me. Like you can put yourself in that position, and then it weirds you out. Like things going dark, and then you not existing.
That
Like
was my catalyst too. My
it's
adopted mother died, and she had this was back in the '70s, so she had like a hospital bed at home. She had cancer,
yeah.
and I
My dad had
watched
one too.
her deteriorate
Yeah.
until, and then just one day I woke up and there was an ambulance out in the driveway, and my adopted father just came in and he was like, "She's gone." That's all that was ever talked about. For some reason, I think that bothered me more the way it was handled. It was just like, she's gone. Never talked about it again.
Well,
Right?
we must have never talked about this. Yeah, but my dad was the same. He had a hospital bed in the house, and we watched him just waste away to nothing, and then watched him die. But it was just like that changes you. I mean, it changes everybody, but that
Well, you
especially
being
because
you
you,
being the kind of thinker that you are, because I know how you think deeply about everything, and that's going, it got into your head and it made you think about it, like
yeah,
really deeply think about it.
it really changes your whole perspective. And some people like yourself experience that when you're really young, and that really probably is a mind trip because
Yeah.
I'm older now, but that's just it's just really hard to put into words to describe to anybody. Like we're talking about it right here, but a lot of it's experience. Like how I feel, I know how you feel because we have a shared experience with that happening. So we don't even have to say that much. People watching might be like, "Oh God, they're talking about death. How terrible! I want to sign off." But it's oddly therapeutic when you have this mindset. You want
Yeah.
to share it with somebody and be like, "Hey, do you stay up at night?" "Yeah, I do." "Do you too?" And it's like it's a weird spot to be in. I know Tim, I'll speak for him because he had to work for people who are wondering where he is, but he has the same thing, and he would stay up at night just thinking about it.
My daughter just did it not even a year ago. Actually, I think it was about a year ago, and she, for I don't even know how to explain what happened. I don't know where it came. Well, I kind of know what might have triggered it, but when I say she freaked out, I mean she literally started screaming, saying she didn't even want to live anymore because she knew she was going to die and I was going to die.
Oh,
And she
geez.
started. It was the word. I didn't even know what to say. I had to get her up. We had to like sit out in the living room, and I just had to talk to her. And not. I didn't really talk about it too much. I kind of guided her away from it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what to say to that. But it was probably the most awful thing I've ever seen as far as like my daughter's concerned. Like I never saw that before. She lost her mind, and I mean, she was eight, not even 8 yet. She was 7, like almost 8, and she was literally screaming, freaking out, saying, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to." It was awful.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned the kid thing, and for people who have kids or don't, or nieces, nephews, whatever, like how you handle that subject of death. And I handled it really carefully with my oldest daughter. She was aware enough to know that her grandpa was gone, and I had to say, "Oh, he just had a boo boo, or he had to go to heaven." And I do talk to her about all that stuff and try to like paint a nice picture of all that. But all the doubts I have in my head, I'm not saying that to my little girl, but she'll come up and say things like that too. Well, she'll mention like, "Oh, well, when am I going to die, or when are you going to die?" And it's just like shit, And you're like, you have to come up with some creative way to like, how am I going to dance around this to where I don't traumatize you at
On
your
the
young?
spot too. You don't have
Yeah,
time to
yeah,
think about it. When it hits you, you're like, "Oh my
yeah,
god, I don't know what to say."
yeah. And there's such an innocence there, and such like a very bluntness to what their questions are, and you just like
Yeah.
you said on the spot, you got to come up with something, and it better be good because you can just scar them for the rest
Oh
of their
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said, my
But
way was just to push her like a little bit of. I did the best I could, but I have the same thing with religion as you, and we don't talk about religion in the house because it's just not a thing. Up until recently, she's been asking about like the gods and God, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But I'm like, I don't know. You're gonna have to make up your own mind about that.
and that's it's hard because I grew up. My parents always took me to church and stuff, and then I've been since my dad died. I've been really bad about it, and I don't like you said, and like we talked about, I have a lot of doubts about the whole thing.
Hmm.
But I know to have that foundation, I don't know, man. When I was in my early 20s, I had some stuff happened health wise, and I got like really down about it, and I started questioning the whole religion thing and like my faith and everything. And then that's kind of the whole where it's been up and down and rocky. Um, but I don't. It's weird. I don't want to set her up to have that moment in her life where she goes like, "Oh shit, this is all a lie." and
That's exactly what it was. It's like Santa Claus.
yeah, but I want to like give her some foundation there. We're like, hey, I think something's going on here. Something's going on in terms of like creation, or because I think people get hung up on the definition of God. They get oh, the white beard, the man who's judging you in the Old Testament, and so I don't believe in God. God's bullshit. See, I think if you break that down, you get away from the human like frame of it and
Right.
construct of it, and like the artist drawings of it. You can actually be like, okay, well, I think there's something there,
Sure.
but how am I going to give my kid structure? You know what I mean? To like, so then I fall back to religion. Like I probably should,
I explain it to my daughter in this way, in terms of there's good and there's bad. That's a fact. Um, Something made us, because we did just talk about this the other day. Um, but it's up to you how to interpret it, which is, I talk to her like an adult. She's a very smart child. So it's up to you how you interpret it. I think there is something that created us. I think there is something good. We're made of something, we're aware of ourselves. And I just kind of give her like that guideline to go with. And if she wants to talk about it, that's fine. We can
Mhm.
talk about it. Now I'm a little more prepared because I got hit with the bad one,
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah.
But I also told her that there was no Santa Claus when she was 3, because I
Mhm.
didn't want that weird lie. Like later, it sounds weird, but I just didn't want that weird lie. I didn't want to have to explain
No,
that later.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I'm gonna probably butcher your name, Malika. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry. Oh God, it hits me sometimes. Yes, I panic too. I'm so claustrophobic. What if I'm stuck somewhere? When we were talking about death and thinking about it in bed,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Did
I
she
have
say
that.
claustrophobic?
Yeah, I have that a little bit too. So I get
That's
really,
exactly what it feels like, actually.
yeah. You
It
start
feels like you
feeling like
can't get
things
out
are,
of your own
yeah,
self, really, is what it is. But where you are, all of a sudden, collapses in on you while you're thinking about this. And for me, that's exactly what it was like. It was like a claustrophobia, but I couldn't get out. Even if I got up and I walked out, I couldn't get out of it. It
yeah.
was awful.
It's panic for sure. And I think that's part of the struggle is like, you know, I mean, on one hand, you got to have some and then we can move on from the death conversation. You got to have some frame of
But it's
reference. If
still
you
everything.
if you do kick the bucket, it's like you're not going to be aware of things being dark. You know what I mean? It's like it's dumb.
Yeah.
But near death experiences, I'm a believer in that stuff. I think something's going on where people's consciousness snap out of their bodies and they see something else when they're separated and go back. But that's a whole nother topic we can talk about a different day.
Yeah.
Um, Before we run out of time here, I do want to pivot. I don't know if you saw the headline about child abuse in public schools, and I know people are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
it's coming from different sources. So I know some people, depending if you're Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative, some people might want to try to like fudge it. But I think there is obviously an issue because, as we all know, pedophiles and abusers tend to gravitate toward where kids are. Kids are at
Yep.
public school, so it's not a surprise. And there's one individual named Christopher, I think Ruffo, who's been doing a lot of stuff reporting on the Disney stuff going on and some of the meetings and the videos that have come out of Disney in terms of like their content.
But the secret content, like the
Yeah, like just trying to
yeah,
sneak stuff into like kids
subliminal
programming and
stuff.
stuff.
Mhm.
And we can talk about that too. So I think people might maybe not get too happy about him if you have a different viewpoint. But his quoted as the public school system has a serious child sex abuse problem. The last significant federal study on this topic, which was conducted by the Department of Education, was in 2004, suggested that millions of American school children are victims of teacher sexual misconduct in each generation of K through 12 students. And there hasn't been any significant research since then. But this recent one came out and was like really kind of damning in terms of what was going on. Um, I don't know what your opinion was, how you kind of handle it with your kid, with this whole public schools going to school and like with adults, obviously, and then
Mhm.
also the whole Disney thing. I was a huge Disney fan, growing up and stuff. So it was always kind of like, oh, when did they start doing this stuff? But what's your
Right.
take on all that?
Well, the Disney thing, I'm not so sure about. I kind of keep my daughter away from lots of stuff anyway, just because I don't trust, exactly those reasons. I don't trust a lot of things. There's a lot of things that get slipped in there.
Hmm.
As far as the see, I have, because of all of this, and well, just because she's my daughter, I've had these conversations with her many times about anyone approaching her in any way, and I mean saying anything, and I've given her the trigger words to hear. You hear any of these words
Yeah.
by an adult, it doesn't, as like a teacher, it doesn't matter. You tell me immediately. Then there's also the thing that I'm worried about, because my daughter, because she's raised by her dad, like full time, she's very much a tomboy. She
Hmm.
cuts her hair short. She wants to be like a boy. She dresses kind of like a boy, but she's just a kid. She's like, she's like her dad. She plays guitar. She's like into boy stuff. Her friends are all boys at school. I'm worried about someone going up to her and trying to help her figure herself out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Things like this are not, first of all, anything, I'm sorry, but anything that's sexual or, because there's a whole moral thing there too. That's my business with my family and my daughter. That's not for anybody else to talk to her about. And that's a fact. I know we're in this weird world now where everyone seems to think that it's up to the world to educate every. No, no, no. My family has our own beliefs, and when my daughter gets old enough, she will create her own beliefs. But until then, we're gonna. This is how we do things here. You know, our moral fiber is this. I swear to God, if anyone ever, you've talked to me before, you know, anyone
Yeah.
ever even remotely approach my daughter with anything like that, sexual, they'd be dead. This
Yeah.
is fact. I wouldn't be able to stop myself.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that's excellent the way you put it, because I have the same feelings. And I think with the Disney thing, what I've seen and kind of how I came down on it, and I had the conversation with a friend of mine, is I'm okay if Disney wants to make a movie about whatever they want to make it about.
Sure,
But you better be transparent about what the movie's about, so I can make a decision as a parent whether or not my kid's going to see that or not.
that's
If you're
exactly it.
yeah, if you're slipping shit in to programming that traditionally has no concept or subject matter regarding sex or gender, whatever it is, and
Right.
like you said, it could be a lot of different things about a lot of different moral choices or values of families. I mean, it's like there's a way you can do it where it's general, like don't bully, don't do this. It's like very nice general values for
Yeah, normal
kids.
stuff
Yeah, but if you want to start getting into certain policy things and certain decisions and certain like sexual things,
that kids have no business even
we got yeah
knowing
we
yet.
we got a big problem, because now
Yeah,
you're engaging in activism, in my point of view. You're trying to brainwash my child, and you're trying to parent my child, and like you said, none of your goddamn business. That's mine. When she's 18 or whatever, or they can go out and do whatever they want. They can think
that's
however
right.
they want. But that's how I've come down on it. And I don't know. I don't get what it is either. To your point about why the world or something feels like now we need to educate, whether or not, if like I disagree with you about values, now I need to impose my beliefs on your children because I think you're poisonous to the society. I don't know
It's
where that's coming from.
I don't. The only thing I can think, someone put it much better than I could. But oh man, I don't take it for this one. But it is what it is. I feel like the world. So you know, when there's a certain contingent of people who are not very extroverted or not very assertive, or what they feel like the world bullies them. They feel like losers. We all know these types. I was in that, for a little while when I was younger, so I get it, right? And all of a sudden, the internet gave a voice to people who, frankly, shouldn't have access to a megaphone. The world has a megaphone. Everyone has a megaphone now.
Hmm.
So everything is like, and as humans, we have our things and they become knee jerk. But because they're so, whatever this is inside them, they suddenly like, oh my God, and I can say something now and everyone will listen to me. And somewhere out of that coalesced this thing of people who believe that they're right, everybody else is wrong, and not only that, it's been pushed to and at a really surprisingly, shockingly aggressive rate. Like
Hmm.
like I told you with my daughter, like she even tells me, she's like, man, I wish I was. She just said this morning. Right? It was like I was brushing her hair and I was like, oh, I look so pretty. She's like, I don't want to be pretty. Can I be handsome? She's just a kid.
Hmm.
She's just a kid. You can be whatever you want. She could dress. I let her dress. I'm the one that took her to get the short haircut. That's what you want. Fine.
Yeah.
Here. But I don't
Yeah.
talk to her about like. There's no confusion there. This is what she is now. When she gets older, she may that she's a tomboy. So what? Right? But this pushing of things, this people like seeing something like that and seizing an opportunity to tell her that, now it hasn't happened yet, which is surprising since, I'm here. And she
Hmm.
goes to, Los Angeles school system. So, but if I'm telling you, and I've already told her, there's also words there. It's like, if anyone comes to you with anything like that, you better tell me right away.
Yeah, because
Because
there's some reports, and people like to minimize it and go, "Well, it's not happening here, or it's just one person here, or one person there," and people like to try to downplay it. It's like it doesn't matter if it's happening once.
yeah,
It matters. It matters to the family, matters to the kid, and we should address it. You don't have to. I know there's a lot of fear mongering and stoking of the flames on cable news because people want
sure.
review or viewership and everything else. I understand that, but it is important, right? Because like you said, it's your daughter, it's you. You tell her what to look out for.
Where do they think traditions and things like family tradition come from? It comes from like families over however centuries and thousands of years of time. Families create their own thing. And that's why we have
Mhm.
different kinds of people. For some reason, it seems like all of a sudden we're only supposed to have one type of person, like in the world. No,
Mhm.
that's never
Yeah.
going to happen.
Well,
Never.
I had an interesting thought about that, and then there's some studies obviously that show that human beings were very tribal in the past, and we each had our close knit groups, and maybe there was more communal parenting in some instances, and
Mhm.
people try to to point to that and go, well, we should be doing that in modern society. The problem is that the United States of America and the world at large is pretty mixed now, minus a few countries. So our country has a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures with a lot of different values, and I
Mhm.
don't necessarily agree with yours, religion wise, whatever it is, and so you can't say that that's going to work. Like people kind of criticize how it's kind of like especially like the whole teacher union conversation and teachers feeling like it's their job to kind of educate children on some of these issues.
It's
And
been
it's
said a
like,
lot more too lately.
yeah, and it's like it's not your job. It's not like we're in some kind of tribe way back thousands of years and we like all have the same, we're all communicating, have the same beliefs, and we're all okay with each other. So it's like, no, we're different, and
The
you
thing
need to
is, they
respect.
know that. They're
Yeah.
aware of that. They've lived here also, like everybody else. This is a relatively new thing, as far as I can see. I have other kids that have grown up. I never dealt with any of this before. This is like a new thing. But like, no, nobody raises my kid, and there are
Hmm.
things that are just from a basic familial line, a baseline where we all start from. You learn things from your parents. Yeah, whether it's bad or good is not up to you to say, because
Yeah.
this is your family. She comes
Yeah.
home. Where does she live? Oh, that's right, with me. Who raised her? Me. Who made her? Me.
Yeah.
So and she
Back
has
off.
not exactly back off. She's got two parents. She sees her mom on the weekends. Her mom's Thai, so she gets all this. My daughter speaks Thai also. She's got all this wonderful stuff like all around. You know what I mean? She's a well-rounded kid. So shut the hell up and stay away from her. Because she did say something 2 days ago. She brought up the word gender, and I don't know why she said that, and she kind of won't tell me. She said that it's nothing, that she just heard it, but I'm like, where did you hear that? Why
Yeah.
would you say that word? So
Yeah.
I immediately got like, because I know how she dresses, and I've been worried about that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
let kids be kids, and so once they start dropping certain words, you're like, where'd that come from? I haven't said that.
all the people now that are like pushing for that stuff, I mean, they had to go through a point where like their life where they had to figure things out too, and I appreciate that. I understand that. So my kid will have to figure stuff out. Your kid will have to figure stuff out. That's how life works. That's what makes you a stronger person, figuring things out. Maybe if
Yep.
everyone wasn't such a dick about pushing like all their shit on me, like again, you don't want to wake up the person who just wants to be left alone. You don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Yeah, and
And
I think a majority of the country probably echoes or believes what we're talking about here. It's just like, no, it's my kids, man, just back off.
yeah,
And I feel like I don't know how accurate it was, but there was like a popularity of the Disney brand, and I think that show that had really dramatically switched
yeah,
recently based on and a lot of it, some of it's narrative and stuff. I mean, I still take my kids to Disneyland. I love Disneyland, but
yeah.
now I have my antennas up when they have the TV on, and I've already seen a couple things, and I've heard some of the things on the music, and not even to do with sex, but just about like race and different things. And I'm just like, whoa, where's this coming from?
Well, that's our job as parents, that for our antennas to go up. It's been that way since the beginning of time. What is happening now seems that other people who aren't related to a child, their antennas go up if they hear something that may indicate that they're not falling in line with everything that's going on. It
Yeah.
doesn't. None of it makes sense to me as far as that goes. When do we all of a sudden have to become this homogenous, all believing the same thing, robot? Yes, this is what it is. No, man, it's not that way. It will never be that way. You can do whatever you want. It'll never be that way.
I'm butchering your name. You should tell me if I say it right. Malika. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's same. Any adult that has any kind of or any sexual conversation with any child is a pedophile.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I agree with this completely.
Yeah.
I gave
Because
my daughter certain words. I was like, the second you hear any of these words, you tell me.
because I ran into two pedophiles through sports. One of them was linked to a high school that I was going to, and one of them was trying to get me to come out for a particular sport there, and I had no idea after the fact. And then another one was through basketball, who was molesting kids. So everybody seems to know somebody who does that, and that's like the real in your face examples.
Yeah.
But some of the ones like you're talking about where it's like verbal, like, hey, you can do this or that, and it's almost like people don't like it when people say grooming, but it almost is. And
No,
in
it is.
every situation's different, and I'm not saying who's someone who just has a different political viewpoint, as a teacher or something, as a groomer and a pedophile. But once you start going down that road of trying to sexualize kids and different things, it's like you're getting into the dangerous waters there.
I don't even know how that falls into. I understand like now, but realistically, that is not a political opinion. That is just a fact. Those
Yeah.
things are just fact. Like you don't mess with those are for parents to,
Yeah.
to deal with their children. That's it. That's it. Anything else? What the teachers should just teach regular stuff. You know, all the stuff that we send them to school for. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. If you're of a certain whatever persuasion, whatever it is, whatever you're call yourself, that's fine. I don't care. But when I was a kid, how much did you know about your teachers when you were a kid? Did
Oh
you know
yeah. I just knew if they were
nothing,
mean to me or not.
right? And that's it. And that's the professional level of separation that should be there because otherwise the teacher's not there to be your friend. They're not there to guide you through it's just teaching. And that's all it ever should be. So
Mhm.
anyone who ever tries to cross that boundary, well, they're gonna catch hands because that's not sorry. There's just no way
Yeah.
that that's happening.
We didn't get to get everything today because the hour kind of flew by, but there was a report, and will have to do this again, but there was a report of the Pfizer. I don't know if you saw this clip. It was hilarious. It's the Pfizer CEO, and he's talking about a compliance chip inside medication.
I
Did
did.
you see that?
I
Okay.
did.
Really crazy. So people tried to frame it like he was talking about COVID, so everybody kind of panicked. But then if you actually read into it, it was some other drug for schizophrenia, depression,
Yeah.
and bipolar disorder. I think I saw in here. But it does raise an interesting question about mental health and all the shootings kind of that have been going on.
Mhm.
And what do you do about that? What do you do about the mental health situation? People go, "Oh, we need to revise that," but no one ever says what they're going to do. So
No.
but like I've gotten older and I've gotten more, I guess, libertarian in terms of wanting the government out of my life. Do you think would that be something that you'd be okay with if you start identifying people? It starts getting like a little dicey there, identifying people who have a mental issue, possibly violent, and you start monitoring whether or not they're taking drugs or not as some kind of preventative measure, right, for any kind of outward violence in terms of mass shootings or, there's an argument, get rid of all the guns. I personally don't think that's ever going to happen. So what do you do about the mental
That is
health
definitely not
issue?
the solution. So you're saying like, so what they want to do is basically monitor people with mental illnesses and drug problems
Yeah,
through
would you
taking.
be okay with that? Because like if you
No,
take that pill, it gets in your stomach, sends a ping to some patch on you, I think, and then that sends it to whatever company or whatever, lets you, or the insurance
no.
companies, and lets them know.
First of all, the biggest reason is the obvious one is that it will the potential for misuse,
Hmm.
misappropriation of that is astronomical, and it will absolutely, as all it always does. If you remember, well, not that we were actually there when it happened, but like Social Security numbers were at one time supposed to be, I think for tax purposes or something like that. They'll never be used as identifying numbers. This is true. And then, of course, they are identifying numbers.
I didn't know
Everything,
that.
it's true.
Oh,
Everything that's ever been put in place starts this way. It's for this reason, Well, I can
hmm,
pretty much identify, you're in LA, I can identify pretty much the mental walking all around, the ones that are on
yeah,
drugs, that are screaming on my corner, you know what I mean? Like right now,
yeah,
we already know who they are. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Maybe if you instead of this weird trying to that's not even a solution, by the way. How is that a solution? What are they going to do with it once they find out? Right?
Hmm.
Didn't we get rid of all the mental institutions in a long time ago, Reagan and all that stuff? So no, we need. I don't know what the solution is as far as any of that goes, but there's clearly a mental health issue. But if you ask me, it's gotten far worse to extend to like, I mean, walk around, just get that feel of how people are reacting to each other and how tightly wound everybody is, and just wanting to explode on everybody. It's an awful feeling. Just walk outside. It's really awful, especially here. So
Yeah. Excuse
that's a
me.
mental
Yeah.
illness in itself, is it not? Like to be that angry over what? And it seems like everybody's really angry. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, political divides, and then like just all these at each other's throats. And yeah, I don't know what the answer is, because I think about my kids going to school, and I think about people get all upset about it. But I'd be like, if you can't control a gun problem, this is outside of monitoring people's pills they're taking, because I don't even think that would work.
Well,
Because
it's all
like you have
related. Of course, it wouldn't work. It's
you have the
crazy.
Las Vegas shooter who never had a run in with anybody, and then he all suddenly snaps. It's like you're not going to have everybody on the radar to even force them to take a pill, even if they showed violence. But
And
I
who's going
have
to be
it.
monitoring that? That's my first question. Who's monitoring that?
Yeah,
Right? Some
yeah, some new
unaccountable
government
agency.
agency.
Yeah, of course. And then what are they doing with that information? And then
Yeah,
what they're actually doing is collecting data on the way
yeah,
on human nature, and then they extend it slowly because then they're going to say, well, we noticed this, this, and this. So anyone who might even show a little sign, like all of a sudden the signs will change, and then all of a sudden it will be like, if you breathe, you might be mentally unstable, so we all have
yeah.
to take this pill just in case.
Yeah, too much power. So anybody wants to abuse it, you can abuse it. And it's like the COVID thing where they want your medical information on your phone. So anywhere you go, you have a passport. And it's like, well, everybody was pissed off about that because of obviously what it could be. But I was for putting a friggin' locked campus, gate the shit for kids, have a metal detector, and make kids walk through a metal detector. I mean, I'm okay. I want my kid to be safe when they go to school. I don't have to worry about guns. Like, I'm pro Second Amendment, but
So my,
I'm not like I don't want my kid to have to suffer that situation, and it's terrible. So I'm not like, oh, just, blind to that whole problem. It's like that I would go to those lengths to ensure kids are safe, and then you guys over here can argue about the policies and the laws and everything. But I feel like there's this weird complaining about it, but they don't make the campuses safe, or you know what I mean. And it's just periodic shooting at a school, shooting at a school, shooting at a school, and it's
right.
like, why don't we just stop that first, then go to what we do about it? Because I feel like you guys arguing for the next decade about guns isn't going to help any shootings between now and then.
But what's never addressed, so then on one hand we're talking mental health and we're talking about this stuff happening. One thing that is never addressed, and it's disturbing to me, is that why is it happening?
Hmm.
What is going on with our society that that's a thing,
Hmm.
right? Because it never used to be this way when you and I went to school, right? Now I'm a lot older than you. You go to school, like I didn't have to worry about anything. I used to ride my bike anywhere when I was 7 years old. I would in
Yeah,
a million years never let my daughter do that now. So
and guns were still around.
things change, and sickos were still around, and people still did
Mhm.
kidnap kids and all that stuff. But it's everything seems to ramped up and accelerated so much, and I think again, I don't really. I just wonder why. It's almost like there's a
I
frequency
agree.
between people. I don't know what
Like,
the hell's going on, but it's definitely gone way out of control. And no one ever wants to talk about that ever. Or if you do, really, where do we go with it? I don't know.
yeah, there's like a breakdown, obviously, of values society, something, right?
Values.
They talk about the males, what's going on with the male psychologically. And I've heard, we used to be hunters and like more aggressive and fighting. So now you're in present day, and like, what do you do with the people who don't fit in? It was much deeper psychologically what could be
Yeah,
going on and why it's males, the aggressive genes and stuff. And it gets really deep. But yeah, there's not a conversation about
I
the
could go the other
origins of
way
these things.
on why the other half is not doesn't like to be held accountable for their actions and thinks they can do whatever they want. So it goes both ways. There is
Yeah.
a complete breakdown of what is it, the societal contract that we all have with each other, and just the general like men and women, understanding each other and being bonding to create, like the full familiar, all that kind of stuff, right? Being one half of each other and whatever the biological stuff. I'm speaking biologically, obviously, but there was more to it. There's moral fiber to those kinds of things. And again, men, women, I don't care. I'm just talking union of two people, right? All of that is blown apart. Everything is about like grass is greener on the other side. Everyone is just basically banging everyone else. It's so out of control, and basically claiming they have the right to do it. Because it's the 21st century, man. Fuck
Yeah.
off, man. Because the whole world's gonna fucking fall apart.
Yeah.
There's no moral fiber anymore. No one's accountable for it. So you
Yeah.
want to talk about male masculine toxicity, whatever the hell it is that they say. There's a whole
Yeah.
other side of it, that's never addressed. But I guess we're not supposed to talk about that because they can do whatever they want. So
Yeah.
we'll talk all of it.
Well,
Oh,
dude,
woo.
I had a really good conversation. This was great. We should definitely do
All
it
right, guys, I
again
went that
as
way.
we do it more. Yeah, we're gonna end it on that. But if people want to check out like what you're doing, I know film wise, music wise, where can they go? Where can they see your stuff?
Go to my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/eerie little pictures. Or just put Kai Blackwood in YouTube, and I will come up. I have a bunch of music videos and some films I've done and other things that are on there, including one music video I just released, like not even I think a week and a half ago. So yeah,
Awesome. All right, sir. Thank you so much. I really
thanks a lot.
appreciate it. And until next time.
All right, brothers, take care.